Bro, that's phenomenal. All right, we're live. We're gonna do another creative deal breakdown. You can't see it now. Well, you don't need to see me. I'll be over here eventually. Sweet. All right, we got another creative deal breakdown from a deal. Shout out Pacer. Pace sent someone my way for a deal that they wanted to buy. All right. So here's the deal. It's in a B class area ARV. What do we have right there? 325. Seller wants 360. $360K. If you are watching this live, send me a DM. Let me know where you're coming in from. I think this connected all of our stuff. All right, that connected all of our stuff. All right, so this was a deal, and this guy structured it somewhat of a creative way, but it killed the deal. And the reason it killed the deal is because we couldn't exit in a good way, and there was too much money down. And so we'll go over what the seller wanted essentially. So the seller, let's see here, they wanted 360, 6% interest rate, and got a dollar sign right there. And they wanted 75K down. Okay. And then they wanted a 7-year balloon. So right here, whenever they want their price, I'm always like, I want my terms, is what we've been telling people. So if they get their price, I need my terms. But so this guy said, no, fuck you. I want my price and my terms. So essentially, we don't win on any of these. Seller wins, and it's not a win, but like it doesn't work for us on any of these. Seller, because we're overpaying. We have pretty much, interest rate is shit. Let's put shit right there. 75K down, shit. We'll put the shit right there. 7-year balloon. If you are watching this, I hope you know balloons are for clowns unless they're less than 10 years, unless we're buying it at a cash price. And that way, that for me helps me feel secure, right? If I'm buying it and I have a 5-year balloon and I bought it at a price to where I think I'm under the actual value, then I am good to go. And if you are watching this live on Facebook, I see your pretty little faces. Let me know where you're coming from. So this seller wanted all 3 of these, and we can put shit right here /clown for you guys. And again, balloons are for clowns because they put us in really hard situations. Generally, what we can do. I lost my eraser. Could you go get me my eraser from downstairs, Lord? Or check that backpack right there, actually. It might be in the front or on the sides. So generally, if I'm going to overpay, I want to have enough time for me to get debt pay down and get some appreciation and some cash flow. So that way, if I'm overpaying by what we think is probably 40,000, I can get possibly nothing. Sweet. Thank you. If I'm doing that, then I can let it appreciate up in value and I can get some debt pay down. Because if I'm going to go like a 7-year balloon, I might as well just go interest only payments based off of the way the property is amortized and with amortization schedule for the first like 15 years. Well, I think it's like 12 years, whatever. We're paying mainly interest, but we don't get a ton of principal pay down. And then the last part about this, he did amortize it over 50 years, which dropped our monthly mortgage payments really good. But still right here, this didn't work, and I'll show you why. So these are the terms that the seller wanted, and we can say that these are all bad except our AM rate. We'll erase this too. And so if he wanted 75K down, and this was listed with a realtor, so he wanted 75K down, the realtor was going to get 25K, wholesaler was going to get 10K. We always get paid to buy it, right? So that'd be another 10,000. We'd go with another, I think we said 4K in closing costs, and another, I think we said $6,000 in holding costs. So hold, closing costs, us, wholesaler, agent was making a lot of money on commission right here, and then seller. What is all that added up together? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Sweet. Now 60 to 70. It is 130.
130.
Jesus, this is why we don't do public math. That's $130,000 up front to put into that property, which for some people it's not bad, but if I'm putting essentially $130,000 down on a house that we think is worth $325, let's say, given the benefit of the doubt, it's worth $360. What's 30% down on $360?
$108.
Right, 108. So I mean, we're more than, so we can say we are more than 30% down to get into this little dinky 3-2 house with all of these buy-in costs. And so we know, all right, if I'm going to go 130, that's a no. So I don't want to pay 130. I'm going to put 30% down. I can go put 30% down and overpay for a house at a 6% interest rate at a bank all fucking day. That's the hard part, right? Because if I'm going to go, it'd just be a mess. And we're at a 7-year balloon, and we're going to have 2 different investors in this because we'd make this a second, and I'll go over the amortization schedule of the way we were taught to do this. So if we have like $130,000 down, the next thing I go and do is I'm going to go look at an amortization calculator real quick. So if I just went 130, 123 at 10%, that is legitimately $1,140 a month in monthly payments. So we can put, let's erase this.
Brad Suit Realtor said no thank you on that deal.
Yes, no thank you on the deal. And this was an owner carry deal, by the way. So that would put our second position mortgage at $1,120, right? And then we have our, whatever this is, we'll do that math. Is that 290 at 6? This is just rough math. Amortized over 50 years at 6%. That's our second. And then what was that? 1526. All right, so that means our total all-in monthly payment on this property is $24.46 at those numbers that he wanted, which is pretty wild. And this is again based off of the way we take things down with all the costs we wanted. We don't want to have to put in a ton of money into them in the first place. Generally, we're looking in. I got a deal sent to me today that was a really good no money down deal, but I think the guys should be able to take it down. Rochelle, if you are watching this, I'm sending him your way here pretty soon. So this would be our monthly payment on this. And then we can still add in, so let's call it, we have taxes and insurance, right? So we can just call it $2,900 just to be safe. So now I'm at $2,900 all in. So then I'm like, all right, so I have these numbers and that's fine. But now I want to look and I want to see what is it renting out for in the area. And when I went and I looked around, rents were legitimately $1,900 a month for properties of similar, like just being similar conditions, similar sizes. Something else was at like 23, but in a, let's say, B class area like that, $1,900 is about all you're going to get. If we were going to do this in a house in an area that was an A class, it'd have to be like, essentially we'd need to have a house that was worth like $600,000 or more in a really good area. And even this number kind of broke a house that was 6 bedrooms with a pool. And we thought $2,900 a month was too much. And we were going to put it on Airbnb as well. And so that is why we won't want to do that. And so what I'll go over now is what our second offer was, or what the offer we came up with. Does anybody have any questions on how I came to this conclusion before I erase this? I feel like I explained everything. 1126, 1520, what the seller wanted. And generally, whenever a seller wants this much down, you can always just say, I could go to a bank and I could get better terms. So why would I have you do it? Right? I mean, we can go to a bank, we're going to get probably a 7% interest rate, but still, we can get less down. And then another thing, if he's really wanting 360, you could be like, sir, it wouldn't even appraise at 360 right now if we tried. And he could say whatever. But generally, that's what I would push back on. And then a 7-year balloon, the only thing he gave us is like a 50-year AM, but it doesn't really help us. So we'll keep, so this was a red. We'll keep that in mind. And then that is our total payment at that. What we had to do was, all right, so first off, we have to, this is all hypothetical because we need to get the agent to take a 2 to 3% commission. We need the wholesaler to make around like $5,000 or no money. Generally, wholesalers get making no money on deals that don't work. Agents, not as much. And sometimes they will forfeit it if that's the only way. But again, we want to try and keep these people fed and find a way to pay them no matter what, just so they can bring us more deals. And like, again, they need to get paid for the amount of work they put in because they had to get this very unreasonable seller to the table in the fucking first place. So those are the two variables that could change. And so let's say, you know what? We're not going to give him 360. We can give him what we think is ARV of 330. And that's honestly still overpaying based off the condition. So we can give him $330,000 and we'll pay the agent his 3%. So will you do 3% of 330 for me? So that means the agents will make, so now we'll have our costs. Agent will have it $10,000, and that's still a lot of money. Wholesaler, we can put it $5,000. We still have the same holding costs of $6,000. So the same closing costs, $4,000. We still need to get paid to do the deal to keep our lights on. I'll just put that as us, as $10,000. trying to think of anything else. Holding costs, closing costs, wholesaler, agent, and then the seller. And I said we can give the seller $10K down. And you may be thinking, oh wow, what do I tell them? And what I told them to say is, well, generally, bro, the numbers just don't make sense unless we do that. Because here's 10, 20, 30, 40, 45. So now we're only at 45K all in. And this is with the agent making 10K, a wholesaler making 15. And so that's a little bit more reasonable. So that's our buy-in cost. And this will go on our second position. So now I'm like, all right, so now we got 45K buy-in alone, but we're going to give them a 330 purchase. And so if we said 330 with 10K down, so now we have a note with the seller at $320,000. And I think I said 1% interest. Amortized over, I think I'd amortized it over 40 years. Because the biggest thing is, I don't want to, the house is a cash condition house. And so one thing I could do is I could just buy it and put it back on the market and wrap it again, which is fine. It'll take longer, but it's still a pain. And I think worst case scenario, I want to be able to keep it as a rental. So these are the numbers that we need to keep it as a rental.
Red Suit Realtor said, I will sometimes pay an agent 4% and they will get you a much better deal convincing the seller to offload the property to me. Greedy agents.
Greedy agents. Thank you, my man. My man, Scott. So now I'm going to my handy dandy amortization calculator. I'm like, all right, so now we are at 320 loan, 40 years amortized. I think we said 1%. That puts us at 809 a month. So let's put right here, monthly payment, 809. Awesome. So now this one's at 809 a month. But we still got to come up with our buy-in note that's going to come from our second position investor at 10%. And this is just for this one. So now, let me put this one down here. Our 45K. So now I'm going to take this again. And my second position note is amortized over 30 years, majority of the time, depending on, and again, you can set however you want up with your investor on this, because it's your deal. It could be principal and interest or only principal. But generally, this is looking about let's call it $400. And these are all rough numbers that I'm running as to get these things done. And that's at 10%.
M. Finesse wanted to clarify 1%.
Yeah, 1% interest. And the reason it's at 1% interest is because if I'm going to take this down as a normal rental, I need to find a way to make it happen. And we're still overpaying. We think ARV is 325 and we gave him 330, which isn't awesome, but it's better. So now our all in cost is, so it's 8, that's 1209, and another $200 taxes and insurance. So we got another 1409. So now our monthly payment is 1409, which is better because now if I can rent it out at 1900, it leaves me with about $500 an actual cash flow, and that's not even a true cash flow because that's taxes, insurance. That doesn't include, let's say, vacancy and repairs. So in all reality, we can take that bitch off right there. We minus out vacancy and repairs, which is call it a solid $300 a month in cash flow. And that's how I came to that number. I was like, okay, what am I going to be happy with cash flow wise? That is going to make sense. And so if we're at $300 a month in cash flow, that's awesome. But then we're looking at our yield. Like, okay, if we take this 45 and put it in this house, how much does it make us? It adds about $300 in cash flow a month to us. Or if we take this 45 and then we go put it in a storage facility, it's a completely different story. Because let's just say our 45 on another deal that we're doing, and I'll pull that up, I think it'll make us $1,500 a month as compared to, well, probably like $1,200 a month as compared to $300 a month. And so overall, I'd be like, I wouldn't really want to do the deal. Like, yeah, we could take it down and get a good rental. I would still want to get my buy-in costs down lower just because I think we could use the money a better way. That's just me personally. If it was in, let's say, an A-class area or an area we could Airbnb, then that would really make sense because it's in an A-class area, then we are fine with this amount of cash flow because we personally feel that we will get more in appreciation, right? And we have no problem holding a property that is actually like a really, really good asset that we'll always want to keep, never want to sell. Because if we have other things that are bringing us the cash flow, these $300 a month deals aren't going to change our lives. And we're not going to, let's say, buy negative cash flowing deals. But if we think it's a good asset and it's barely making any money, we can add it to our portfolio for no money down. That is probably our best choice. And so that's why with this one, overall, the seller was asking too much, wanted way too much down. And if they do want way too much down and you can do like a Morby method or anything else, that's cool. But in all reality, I just wouldn't do the deal. I guess you could come up with another way to do it where you could do less money down. But when you have 3 people that need to get fed, because there's our company, so there's us, agent, and the wholesaler, all need to make money. That increases your buy-in costs, let's just say by like $30K. Even if we didn't include us, because we always include us, and it's just $20K, now we're talking about $25,000 into this house for that. That might honestly make sense, right? If we didn't have to pay that agent and the wholesaler. But again, we always want to pay them to make sure that they bring us more deals. Any questions? Do we have any questions? 0 questions. All right. Well, that was a solid 20-minute live. I don't think there's anything else I could have done to break it down more. Balloons are for clowns. Those are the numbers you play with. I think Airbnb is the answer for most things. But even with this, if we were going to Airbnb said property, now with what we're looking at, my understanding, and this is more my partner's side, is like we really only want something with a pool that is very unique because we have to stand out in the market. But essentially, we went from being all in at $2,900 to all in at $1,400 and cash flowing $300 a month instead of losing $1,000. All right, sweet. Well, we can add that to the content bank if we don't have any more questions. All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.